Okay, everyone, it's done. This is what it looks like. I think it turned out really cool.
It feels cool.
I told anybody from like high school or anyone that knew me, they would be like, Shannon does not have kids. She's definitely not sewing and gardening. She's probably dead. Overdosed somewhere, you know. I had a stepmom that like verbally and sexually abused me. She put me in my first psychiatric ward. This is the haunted house that I lived in. If any of you guys have been following me for a while, my first house I bought was like super haunted. And if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, go watch those videos and then you might change your mind. Hey you guys, so I'm getting ready to start the quilt. I have all these like 5-inch pre-cut squares and I bought them on Amazon, and I will link everything that I got. And then I also got pre-cut like these ivory, everything's 5 inches, and right now I am getting them all color coded so that I can do it in kind of like rainbow, aesthetically pleasing. That's what I'm attempting. I've never done this before, but I think it saved me a ton of time by having the squares pre-cut, just because right now I didn't have time to like pre-cut all these squares. So that's what I'm doing now. I ended up getting 2 packs of each to be able to hopefully make the quilt big enough. Again, never done this before. I've watched a bunch of tutorials and there's so many different ways to make this puff quilt, but there is an easier way of doing it, and I'm gonna try to do the easy way because it's just way faster and it's gonna save a ton of time, and I'm gonna show you how I do that. I'll also link the original tutorial that I watched to learn how to do it. Yeah, I'm super excited to make this. So here we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. We don't have enough room on the table, so we're going to have to start taking this and putting it here and hoping that the kids don't mess it up on the ground so that we can figure out how we want to design it. And then once we have it on the ground and we put all of the little squares together, then we can see if we like it in that design pattern. Well, we're going to put it all on the ground because it's not done yet. We still have all these to use to add to it so that it's a blanket. You know, it'll be for like a blanket for my friend Anessa.
Yeah?
Yeah, she won the Patreon giveaway. For Patreon members, people that don't know, you pay $10 a month. It's like a subscription kind of, but you don't have to do it every month. You can just sign up for 1 month. And when you sign up, you get access to like hundreds, I think there's like 800 like videos on there now, over 800 videos. And so you get access to like tons of content that's only available for Patreon members. It's all like exclusive videos that are never before seen. A lot of it's like stuff that's maybe like too controversial for YouTube, or YouTube doesn't really allow anymore, you know, so that kind of stuff. And then also just whatever Patreon members like request. And so we do monthly Zoom calls where we all hang out. When is Shannon's birthday?
September 16th.
Woo! Who is that?
Sarah.
Yes, you go, girl. Next question. What is the name of Shannon's RV?
The snowmobile.
Good job, guys. Wow, you guys all got that one. Next, what is the name?
Bandit.
Yes, Allison got that one. Bonus round. Ooh, I didn't know it was a bonus.
Sending you all my love and
all my love and all my
Positive energy, and I hope to see you in my next video.
Oh, the guy that smells really bad.
Wait, tell me more.
Man, you guys were good. You guys were better than I was. I didn't even freaking remember half these things about. We do like Q&As. There's so much like fun stuff. And this month's giveaway winner is getting a handmade quilt from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're gonna give it to her?
Yeah, we're gonna sew it for her with lots of love.
Yeah.
We're making it with lots of love and care.
Yeah, she'll love it.
I hope she loves it, and I hope she cherishes it forever and ever.
See, and I'm gonna get big and strong for points, and I'm gonna bumble points away.
Okay, bud. All right, so we got to get the pattern all out, and then once we figure it, okay, we're gonna move this to the floor. To it.
Right here?
Yep, right here.
Oops.
Right here. You're gonna put it right there.
Right here?
Nope, right here. took way longer than it looks like it did. Probably an hour to do this, which I was not expecting, but I did have snowstorm help out, and so that took a little bit longer. But doesn't this look so cool? I try to do like rainbow-ish so that it looks like aesthetically pleasing. I don't know, I think like anything in the rainbow colors looks pretty and it makes me happy. It's like a dopamine hit. I'm gonna call this my little dopamine puff quilt blanket because I feel like when you look at it, it gives you like a hit of dopamine because it's just, I don't know, it makes me happy. So I hope it makes her happy. It's supposed to be a blanket sized quilt. So, you know, like for the couch or something to put on your bed or something like that. But the one, like all of the tutorials that I watched were a lot smaller. And so, but I just thought like, I don't know, it looked like way too small to be a blanket. So they say that it shrinks down a little bit when you do all the puffs inside. I mean, this kitchen is massive. You can see kind of how big it is. So hopefully, I don't know, I guess it's kind of hard to tell. Here, let me show you. This is my hand. So I don't know if that helps with the size. When I sew it all together and I hold it up, you'll be able to see it. But I wanted to show you guys what it looks like, the design that I chose. Freaking took forever. I think it looks good. All right, so now I need to figure out how to, first of all, I think the biggest challenge is keeping the kids away from messing this up because they wanted to like go, you know, make a mess with it. And I was like, please don't. So that's been the challenging part, having kids with no one here to help because Trav's at work. But I need to figure out how I'm going to sew these together without ruining the design. So that's what I am going to do now. I think most people, they like take it and put like this one over this one over this one, and they sew rows. And then they number the rows. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get try to find some tape somewhere and see about, maybe I'll use this and tape to number my rows. And that's how I'm going to try to keep them organized and not get them messed up. But all right, here we go. Let's do this. Everyone's out on the lake having fun, paddle boarding, water skiing, wakeboarding, tubing. And I am in here sewing, which I am not mad about because this is fun for me. I'm gonna show you guys how I learned to keep this in place because I just watched a bunch of videos. So this is the top. I'm just gonna call this like the top of my quilt, and we're gonna sew it into rows. So you kind of just take them like this and put them in the exact way that you laid them out. And then you label them this way, row 1, row 2, row 3. And you kind of just do that for all of them. Once you have your row like this, you'll take it to the sewing machine and you know, okay, I'm gonna sew these all together in this exact pattern. So I'm just gonna do row 1. And that is how I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna have 13 rows. So I'm gonna put them on the table and just pray to God the kids don't mess them up. So that's the plan. Vegan ice cream with vegan whipped cream. This is a lot.
I think it's a lot better for your health out here. Yeah.
We're having an ice cream party. Okay, it is currently past midnight. The kids have woken up 3 times since I put them to sleep. So everybody is now sleeping and I'm trying to be very quiet. I've gotten, I think, like 7 or 8 rows done. So I'm trying to finish as much as I can, but I'm so tired. Okay, so I started sewing my rows together. My machine broke, so we took a break, had to figure out how to fix it, and realized that one of my top threading things came undone. So fixed that, and oh no, I just realized I need to fix that. But yeah, so it's coming together. We have like half of it sewed together, and I just gotta finish sewing the rest of the rows, and I will show you what it looks like when it's sewed together. So I am back at my mom's with this gorgeous view while we finish sewing up this puff quilt. Now we're doing this the easy way, but still we need to make little 1/4 inch pleats on every side, on every square. So that's the part that's probably gonna take forever. I'm gonna show you how to do it at the sewing machine. Okay, so remember there's lots of different ways to make puff quilts. There's some that are a lot more time consuming, and everybody's learned different ways to do it. So this was the way that I learned how to do it in like the most time efficient way, which is, I got ADD, girl, so whatever is the fastest is gonna be the best. So what you're gonna do is, and this was a little confusing to me, so I wanna try to explain it in a way that's not confusing for you. So when I say you're gonna sew little pleats on each corner, a lot of times people do this when it's not already sewed all together. So if you watch other tutorials, you might see them doing it like one block at a time in their sewing machine and then connecting everything. But I found that doing it this way is faster. And then also you'll see the other version of putting the backing on and stuffing it is a lot faster too. So that's why we're doing it this way. These little pleats, they don't have to be perfect, like right in the middle or anything like that, but they do need to be 1/4. And this looks a lot easier. When I watched it, it looked a lot easier. Like, oh, I can do that. That's gonna be a breeze. And then I did it at the sewing machine, and this so you pull it like a little bit together, you know, to pleat it like this. You would like try to find the middle, give yourself a 1/4 seam allowance here. So just put your finger here and pretend like this is the square. Then kind of figure out where the middle is in the square. And then you're just gonna pinch the fabric and pull it over like that to make that pleat. That's what you're doing, and you're doing it on each side. But when you finish sewing this, I would go down and make sure you do them all in the same direction. So if you're going to do the pleat this way towards you, do that for all of them. And then when you're done sewing this row, all the pleats in, go to the next row and then follow this line over here, and it will make it really easy for that pleat to match up. So it looks like this. When you're done sewing all those rows down, then you turn your thing all the way around like this, your quilt, and then you do the same thing. You make that and you do it on all corners, even the outside corners of the quilt that go around the edge. I'm gonna show you right now that to me, it looked easier than it was. So I'm starting kind of in the middle of the quilt instead of the outside edges. And I'm going to, I don't know, it was just really hard for me, especially because it's my first time doing this, to keep that pleat down while I sew. And I'll show you what I mean, because it kept like slipping out and like going away. So I'm gonna go here. All right. And then what I do is I have this little like spinny thing on the side of my machine right here. Can you guys see this? This little thing, and I wind it down, and what that does, I don't know if all machines have this, but it does on my Singer heavy duty. And what that does is it makes the needle go down into the fabric without me pressing on my presser foot down below, because my presser foot, I press it and it's like, so if I want to kind of do it slowly, I can do it like this to make it so that that pleat doesn't go away. And then once I know I have the pleat in, I would just sew it down to the next one. Don't stop and cut your thread, because it's just gonna take too long. There's too many of these freaking things to do. So, but see, this is what I mean. So like it pulls, like the sewing machine and the, whatever this thing is, pulls the fabric through. And so when you make a pleat here, it doesn't want to stay there because it's getting sucked in. So that's why it was hard for me. Watch, I'll show you. See how it's like pulling it away and now the pleat is gone? I'm gonna just go slow. See, it took it away again, freaking thing. All right, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pinch it there, or pleat it there, take it and manually do it with my hand. This has probably been the hardest part of this freaking quilt for me, so I know it might look easy. Okay, so I got some sort of a pleat in there. That's good enough. We're gonna go to the next one. I'm gonna lift up my presser foot actually, and then see if this helps it. Okay, I think I might have found a trick. Just keep your hands on the pleat and push it through. All right, we did it. I think that's the trick. See, all these other people that are sewing and have been doing it a long time, it's easy for them. But if you're doing this for the first time like me, and you don't have a lot of experience, it might be a good idea to watch a beginner do it and learn like the little tricks, because you might run into the same problems that maybe somebody else might not have that's like more experienced, you know? When you take that out, make sure your little needle is down and then find the place to put the pleat. Press our foot down and we are going to push it. There we go. Okay, so you just have to like hold that pleat in and get it, push it through. Don't let the machine take the fabric like it normally would do. You can see that the needle is, and this was the little thing that I was talking about. I push that down, and then when I twist that, the needle comes up or it comes down. So I want the needle down, and then what I'm doing, because this is just what has worked for me best, is that I pull the presser foot up so that once it's in the area that I want to pleat it, I pinch that area. Okay, so I'm gonna pinch this area like that, and you only are supposed to do like a 1/4 pinch, and then I'm holding it. Now that that pleat is there, I'm holding it on both sides, and I'm literally helping feed that pinch through so that it doesn't get sucked up. But I'm gonna do it one more time, and then I hold it, put the presser foot down, and then I push it through, and then that's how I was able to get the pleat without it going away. And again, just sewing to close to where I want it to go, lifting my presser foot, pinching the fabric, dropping the presser foot, and sewing that through until I do it all the way down. And this part is so tedious. This is probably where people are gonna be like, yeah, F this, I don't wanna do it. It's gonna take way too long, because you have to do this on every side of each square that you've sewn. So it is gonna take a while, but it's worth it in the end because of how cool it looks. So bear with me. I'll show you all 4 sides of the square, how to do it really quickly, so you have an idea in case you're a little confused. But for the most part, I hope that I'm explaining this like in a really easy way to understand, because I know for me, I'm a very slow learner, and I literally have to watch these tutorials over and over and over again until I actually get it in my brain. And so if there's anyone else that's like learns like I do, hopefully my video will be able to help you not have to watch it 20 times. Okay, so as I was sewing this, starting from the middle, I decided that I wanted to just do it from this side over, because once I put it in my sewing machine, I just feel like it'll just get easier to do that way. And then I only have like, I can roll it up, you know, as I go. So I'm gonna try that and see how it goes. So I do have a couple tips for you. One is to try to make sure that when you are sewing that everything is as like flat as can be. I rolled up like this side because I'm starting in the middle. I don't know why I'm starting in the middle. I think it's mainly because the tutorial I watched did that, so I just don't want to mess anything up. And then I kind of just like folded this over to kind of make it so that I have like a flat surface, and then make this kind of like even so that it's as straight and flat as possible when you're sewing in the machine. I took it out, I wrapped around the whole, I put the pleats in the whole outside square. So I'm kind of just doing things my own way that I think is just gonna be easier for me. So I think that's like a good tip, is like watch a bunch of tutorials on how to do something, find the way, find the one that you vibe with best to like learn. Because there's so many different like tutorials of people teaching the same thing, but like sometimes you just, I don't know, don't really understand the way someone's teaching and you just like a different person better. We all have like different, you know, preferences. And then, but for me, I try to watch like a bunch of different ones and then I do it and then I do whatever works for me best. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm doing now. By the way, I'm curious if any of you guys sew. Who taught you to sew? My mom did not know how to sew. My dad, no. Like my grandparents, unfortunately, my mom's mom passed away when I was young, and then my dad's mom, I just wasn't really close to, and she lived like out of state. I didn't really have anybody to like teach me how to sew per se. Like I had an older sister, she didn't know how to sew. Like no one knew how to sew in my family, none of my friends. And growing up, like my friends were not sewing. We were like drinking and partying and doing drugs. So once I like got older and I wanted to learn how to sew, I tried to teach myself and I was getting really frustrated because I'm a very slow learner and I just had no idea about sewing machines, and there wasn't like really a lot of like YouTube tutorials back then. There were some, but I just still didn't get it. Surprisingly, my neighbor at the time, who was like a raging alcoholic, she was really nice when she was sober, but she would like come over out of the blue, like uninvited, and just like walk right in the house, which was kind of fun because like we were all in college and this was the haunted house that I lived in. If any of you guys have been following me for a while, my first house I bought was like super haunted. And if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, go watch those videos and then you might change your mind. Anyway, she would just like walk right in. And one day she saw me trying to sew and I was like so frustrated. And she was actually, I ended up having to call like CPS on her because her poor kids, there was just like a lot of drama going on with the poor neighbors. But I am super grateful to her because like it took 5 minutes, not even. She like taught me how to like thread the bobbin and do all the things. Like she taught me how to sew in 5 minutes basically. And I'm just like very grateful for her. So it was my neighbor like randomly just like walked into my house uninvited and saw my sewing machine and was like, oh, you sew? And I was just like, no, I'm trying to learn. And it's freaking, I think I have given up, you know? And she was like, oh, like, let me help you. You never know, like, who's gonna help you in life. And so, yeah, that's how I learned to sew. But I'm curious how, like, any of you guys learned to sew. Was it your mom, your grandma, your crazy neighbor who just decided to invite herself over one day unannounced? Yeah, she really was like, I don't know, now that like I have a boring life. My life isn't boring, but you know what I mean. It's boring compared to my old life that I used to have. Anyone that has been following me for a while knows, like, I was really like, you told anybody from like high school or anyone that knew me like in my early teens, like young adult years, they would be like, Shannon does not have kids. She's definitely not sewing and gardening. She's probably dead, overdosed somewhere, you know, or like. But here we are. Never know how life is gonna turn out. I literally didn't think I'd live past 25. And do you wanna hear something so crazy? Like, when I was younger, I suffered from like a lot of mental health issues, clearly. And for one, like I said, I didn't think anyone would marry me. I always wanted to get married and have kids. That was like a dream like of mine, but I just knew it was never gonna happen. I had done porn, I had escorted, like I just felt like I wasn't worthy of like taking up oxygen in this on earth, you know? And I had a really like tough upbringing. So if you've read my books, you know, I had a stepmom that like verbally and sexually abused me. She put me in my first psychiatric ward. I literally have scars on my wrist. I don't know if you guys can see them in this light, but Her cutting my wrist one night, like to send me to the psych ward because she was jealous of me and my dad's relationship. I mean, like, so many things had happened. Back then I was like, I just want to die young and beautiful. You know, I want to be remembered that way. And I just thought I would either kill myself or die somehow, I don't know. But then my life changed one day when I found out about The Secret. Have any of you guys watched The Secret? Call me crazy, maybe it was the way I was raised or what, but like I just didn't know that you make your life, that you can make your life how you want it. Like regardless of what you've been through or how, like where you were raised or how you were raised. I just thought like you were just dealt like shitty hand, you know, of cards in life. And I watched The Secret and that just like completely changed my mindset and it literally changed my life. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not perfect by any means of like being, oh, like happy and positive all the time. Like, no, not at all. I'm like a real human being, but I do know that I get to choose a lot of things. And I have to sometimes watch it over, like when I start to notice that I'm like getting back in like a negative spiral or starting to feel sorry for myself or just like anytime I'm not feeling on a good vibe, you know what I mean? Then I watch it again. And I've watched it so many times and I think it's like everybody should watch it. That is kind of like when and how I decided I was going to change my life around because I had the choice to do it and I didn't realize that I could make that choice and that I could change. Not everybody knows that. I didn't. And I didn't have anybody to tell me or teach me, you know? Just thought like, it is what it is. Sucks to be me. But I think that's one of the reasons why like I love having a YouTube channel where I could share like my story, because you probably did not think that you're gonna be hearing about my crazy life in a quilting tutorial, but you know, here we are getting to know each other. Yeah, it didn't happen overnight. Like my life, I didn't like watch the documentary and then like the next day I was like a successful YouTuber or whatever. It took a little while, you know, it was like big kind of baby steps, easing out of the life that I thought I would be in forever, which was just like drugs and alcohol and doing porn and escorting and like basically being a sex worker since I was 14. I called myself a child prostitute, and then I recently talked to somebody that wanted me to join like this, or wanted me to be on the board of like this sex trafficking like nonprofit as like an advisor, because she like knew about my story, and I'm like, but I wasn't like trafficked. She was like, your story is like the definition of trafficking kids. And I was like, but I got paid. Like, I guess I still am now very confused. And I decided to like not be on the board because I think like I need to process some like more trauma of like something that I didn't even realize I had gone through. So yeah, that was me. Anyway, I talked about it in my book, like my story of like what happened. And she was like, yes, that is trafficking. And I was like, I thought that was prostitution. She's like, it can't be when you're a minor and you're 14 years old. That's illegal. And it's considered trafficking. And then, you know, after that first instance when I thought I was just like selling my body for money to get drugs, because I was like in the 9th grade, he invited me to like other friends that, you know, and so I don't know, it was just, and it got like passed around, and I didn't realize that also the definition of trafficking. I have yet to do research on it because I don't know, it just kind of like was a bit too much for me to like process and kind of handle right now. I've got a lot going on with like the kids, and I don't have it in me to kind of like go to therapy. I know I need to work on myself so that I can be healthy for them, but I just, right now I'm not ready to kind of like change in my head my whole story of like all of that. Does that make sense? I don't know, it probably doesn't make sense to you too much, I think, to take all in. So I'm deciding to just not. And so quilts instead. I feel like arts and crafts or quilting, sewing, like painting, all these like things that like allow us to have some sort of creative outlet is so good for us, like not just like mentally, but physically, like because we're able to like get out certain things that maybe we hold inside or stuff that's happened to us in the past that like, I don't know, we're not able to like process in like ways, you know, like therapy or whatever ways like they say you're supposed to. Maybe our way is like doing it through art and being creative. Like that's our outlet to get our therapy out. You know, like art therapy. I'm sure I know they have that, but I don't know much about it. That's a little bit of my story in case you're new here. I'm happy to report that I have a very amazing, supportive husband who loves me regardless of my past. Although we weren't able to have kids on our own, we were able to do IVF and we have 2 beautiful children, and I'm literally living like my dream life. Gardening, sewing, like being a wife and a mom, which is like literally what I dreamed of but thought I would never, ever, ever have. I can do it, and I can have like my dreams come true that were like impossible, then anyone can. So hopefully my story inspires you a little bit. And if you haven't read my book, I would highly recommend it. It's on Amazon if you just like search The Story of Channon Rose. There's a part 1 and a part 2. I also did an audiobook for it, so. And I am the voice on the audiobook, in case anyone cares, because there's a lot more to my story that I cannot talk about here on YouTube. In fact, I don't even know if this is like gonna be allowed. I might have to, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be okay. This thing better come out freaking amazing. It is taking longer than anything I've ever sewed in my whole entire life. All right, I'm getting better at these pleats. So, oh, you're freaking kidding me. One of the most annoying things about sewing when your bobbin thread runs out and then you have to like rewind it. Oh, in the past, I bought like the pre-round bobbin things. Totally worth it in my opinion. I hate having to stop a project to freaking wind the dumb bobbin. Why haven't they thought of like a better system on this all these years? Come on, guys. Ah! Not good at it either. You know, I was just thinking, how much would it suck if I ran out of thread? Because where I'm at right now, like the craft stores are far, far, far. So I'm praying to God that doesn't happen. Anyway, what I was saying was like, why have they not thought of like a better way to make it so you don't have to wind the bobbin? Why don't they make it as big and redo sewing machines so that a big thread spool can fit through in the bottom of the machine so you don't have to freaking wind it all the time? Like, come on guys. We can send freaking rockets to space. You guys can make a sewing machine where you don't have to rewind these bobbins a million times. Come on, get with the program, people. I'm obviously like kind of joking because I don't know anything about like building sewing machines. So anybody that might know anything might be like, that girl's an idiot. But I feel like, you know, we need to like come up with something better. No one likes to freaking do the bobbin. I'm gonna show you so far what it looks like when I start sewing the pleats in. This is the side that has the pleats. You can see them on, well, not all of them have all 4 corners yet. Let me see which rows do. Now I haven't got to all 4 corners of them yet, but it's getting close and you can kind of get an idea. So what these pleats are doing, if you're curious, like, why do you need to sew the pleats? Because at first I was like, I'm not sewing those pleats. I'm just gonna stick the stuffing. And as I was researching, the reason you do this is that it puffs up that area so that it looks like puffy and it's just gonna look a lot better. So it's worth doing the extra pleats so that your finished project is gonna look like a traditional puff quilt. Okay, so all the pleats are done in the quilt and this thing shrunk down so much. This is now a lap quilt. So it's way smaller than I originally planned, but I still think it's gonna look awesome. So I will show you the next step. I really wanted to go to Hobby Lobby and get the Minky Dot fabric for the backing of this, but mine did not have it, and I don't live in a town where there's a lot of other craft stores, and I don't have time to order it. By the time I was gonna order it for it to come in, it's just gonna take forever. So I am using this super soft duvet that I had from our house. We don't use it, so I'm gonna cut this up, and it even has like a zipper and all these cool things. So I'll probably like save the zipper for a future project and just like upcycle it, but I'm gonna cut it so that it's bigger than the size that I need, and then we will start sewing it all together. So that's what I am going to do now. I can't believe how small it ended up turning out, but that's okay. It took this, oh wait, can you guys see me? I literally, after making this, was like, or while I was making this, I'm never making one of these again, because it took so freaking long. And this, like, and it ended up being like way smaller. It's like a lap blanket now, you know? So even though it's gonna be super cute, it takes a long time. And if you were to make like a huge one of these, it would probably take, I can't even, I mean, you kids are in school and you don't have a job, then I guess like, or on like weekends you could make it, I guess. But anyway, it took a long time. So just giving you guys that heads up. So what they say to do is, I'm actually gonna bring it this way. They say to cut the backing like bigger than the actual blanket. And that's so that you have plenty of room for, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a duvet, so there's two pieces. So I'm gonna come through, just flatten it the best I can. And then I'm gonna just cut with the scissors the top layer of the duvet, because this is gonna be like scrap fabric now. I'm gonna give myself like way extra room just in case. I didn't even know that these existed, but they're called, oh, I'm looking rough. Sorry guys, I'm starting to get tired. I didn't sleep last night because I was like worried about the surgery I was gonna have, and now it's getting towards the end of the day and I'm just getting sleepy. But anyway, they are curved safety pins and they are specifically made for quilting, and they're pretty big. I don't know if you guys can see. And these are what I'm going to start putting on the quilt right now. I'm using these curved safety pins. They're specifically made for quilting. I got them on Amazon, and this is what I'm going to use to pin across. So I'm also going to link the tutorial that I really loved and the one that I'm going off the most. I really liked her, and she's the one that taught me how to do this. So I'm gonna put hers also because she is way more experienced than I am. This is my first time making this, but I just wanted to do it because a lot of you guys had asked when I was showing it in my Instagram story to do a little tutorial. So if mine's not helpful, hers will definitely be. So I'll link her below. I think this was like her easy way to make a puff quilt, which I liked. So she tells you to pull it out and like flatten it as much as possible. She tells you to pin it with these safety pins in a U shape. So we're gonna pin from here in a U shape, and we're gonna leave this side open, and then I will show you what we'll do next. So I just finished pinning the U shape. I am going to now go to the sewing machine and I'm gonna sew that U shape, and I'm gonna make sure to leave this side open. So let's take it to the sewing machine. I took all the safety pins out of the quilt and sewed that U shape I told you about, and now I'm gonna go ahead and trim off the excess of all of this, and then I'm gonna turn it right side out. So in case I didn't tell you, make sure you put good sides together when you sew it, so that when you turn it right side out, you know, it's going the right way. Okay, I turned it right side out. And now I'm just gonna sew a top stitch around the whole outside U shape, leaving this part open. All right, had to move into the bathroom because the lighting is getting kind of crazy out there. So now that I have done my top stitching all around the borders of that U shape, I am going to start doing the method of stuffing the little puffs, which I think is brilliant. And again, I'm gonna link her down below because I don't want to take credit for her idea. So I just got this from her, but and I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name. But what she tells you to do is to put these basting pins, I guess is what they're called. They're those curved safety pins I was showing you guys earlier in the video, and she says to do them like every other square. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take up to 3 rows. The reason we're putting these in, let me try to clarify this because it might be a little bit confusing. The opening is over there. So essentially what we're gonna do is we're going to sew lines like this. We're gonna sew here, here, so this is the bottom of the quilt. We're gonna sew 3 rows up all the way at the bottom. So that's why I put these little basting pins in to kind of keep it in place so that when I'm sewing 3 rows up, that everything kind of stays in place and doesn't get shifted around. And then we're going to end up stuffing it, and that's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna stuff it from that side. That's why we kept that open, and I will show you how to do this. It is way easier than some of the other traditional ways I've seen when I was watching all the tutorials. This was hands down my favorite and easiest one. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And remember, this is my first one, so I am no expert. Literally my first quilt I've ever made, and decided to make a puff quilt because they said they were really forgiving, like if you weren't that great at sewing and like making straight lines. So I thought, oh, that'd be great for me since I'm new. It's far from perfect, but I do think it's freaking adorable, and I think Nessa's gonna love it. So I am gonna go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to just sew up all on these. They call them stitching in the ditch. And we're just gonna do 3 and start with that. And then I will show you the next step. Okay, so I just finished stitching in the ditch these 3 rows, and you can see on the back what that looks like. And we did that all the way across. And now I'm gonna go ahead and take all these safety pins out, and I am going to grab my polyfill over there, and I'm gonna start stuffing all the way in the bottom each one, and we're gonna put it in through this open hole. That's why we made the U shape. So I will show you what that looks like. And just to give you guys some reference, it is 9 o'clock at night, and look how light it still is out here in Tennessee during summer. It's so cool because Storm and Trav just got out of swimming in the lake at 9 o'clock at night. Isn't that so cool? Summer is just so epic here. It's probably my new favorite place to spend summer is the Parental's Lake House. Look at him, he's so happy. Hanging out with his dad, swimming in the lake. Okay, so I do want to mention, this is like, I thought this was going to be like a blanket size. So I would size up if you have the time to do it and can afford the materials. Because when you make all those pleats, it shrinks down a lot. So something I thought was going to be like a blanket size turned into like a lap quilt or a lap blanket. So just keep that in mind. Also, this takes freaking forever to make. I have been sewing for hours and hours and hours, and this is going on like, I don't know, the 2nd week maybe that I've been working on this. Not every day, all day, but today I've worked on it all day, and I still am nowhere near like completing it. So just want to give you guys a heads up so you do know how time consuming this is. And this is like the easy way too, supposedly. So it's hard trying to do this with one hand. Okay, this is the best part. I feel like this is like the most fun part because you know you're getting close to done and you get to stuff the quilt. I feel like stuffing it is probably the most fun part. So I just got this big thing from, I think I got it from Walmart or Hobby Lobby, or maybe I ordered it online. I can't really remember, but I'll link everything that I used. Oh no, I forgot a couple safety pins. I'll link everything that I used down in the description, all of it on my Amazon storefront. That way, if you want to see like how much things cost, or you want to also order the same things I got, I'll try to link as much as I can, and I'll put it in like its own category so it's easy to find. Maybe I'll do like sewing or crafts or something like that. So what I saw, man, I really should have looked up her name. I feel really bad that I don't know what her name is. Oh, it's the Quilting Channel. That's what it's called, her YouTube channel. Anyway, she is really a good teacher for people like me that maybe are a little bit on the slower end. just takes me a while to understand things sometimes. That's just how my brain works. I have really bad ADHD, and I've been like that since I was a kid. I had like an IEP in school and like special ed, all the things. So what she did was she rolled up the bottom of her quilt so it was easier for her to get the stuffing and put it in. So she took like a handful, and this might be too much because my squares got really small. I would recommend doing bigger squares, because when you look up traditional puff quilts, they tell you to do like 5-inch squares, which is exactly what I did. But if you don't have small hands, these squares got really small. So it's gonna be hard. You're gonna have to use like a tool to get the stuffing in there. So I would use bigger squares. One, it's gonna be faster and easier and bigger of a quilt. You won't have to worry if you're like a beginner like me getting your little hand in there. And I have pretty small hands too. So, okay, so how exciting. We got our first little puff filled. So what you do is you're just gonna go ahead and with those little channel rows that we sewed in, you're gonna stick that stuffing in as far as you can get it back, because you need to make sure that we're gonna have to sew a line here. So we're only gonna do this row and stuff that row and stick it as far back as you can. All that polyfill, you don't want it to get in your sewing machine when you're sewing. And you also don't want too much stuffing or too little. If it's too big, it's gonna be too stiff. So I might take a little bit out. I want it to be like cozy and comfortable. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and stuff this whole row. But yeah, I would definitely say use bigger squares. At first I was gonna try to do 10-inch squares, but then I read like it might not work as well. Like the puffs, like as a blanket, it wouldn't maybe work as well. So the sewing channel did 6.5-inch squares, and hers, she said she really liked, and it turned out better. She said it turned out better than the smaller one she did. And these ones were 5-inch squares, and they are not 5 inches anymore because my sewing sucks. So I would just size up. That's probably a smarter way to do it. And then another tip would be, if you want to save a lot of time, is to get pre-cut squares, which is exactly what I did, because I have 2 kids that I take care of 24/7 in homeschool, and I just did not have the time to sit around cutting all these squares. So they make, all of these were pre-cut. They call them like charms, and they were 5 inches, and you can buy them like that. And again, I'll link them down below. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue stuffing. These squares are all different sizes, by the way. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, but I think it's okay. It adds to the charm. You can tell it's handy. All right, we got our first row stuffed, and I'm gonna go ahead and sew all along this seam here, and that's gonna put little pockets like this, and then you can see the cute little puffy pillows it makes. I would also suggest sewing in your sewing machine this way, so that you can roll this to be down there, and then that way when the puffs start getting big, they're not going that way towards your sewing machine and getting hard to sew, but they're coming out this way. We got our first row sewn, and you can see what it looks like. This took freaking forever, but now that this is like coming together, I am thinking it was definitely worth it. Although I probably won't do one of these again for a long time because I'm gonna be like burnt out on this one. But we're gonna stuff our second row. That's basically what you do. So you stuff the first row, you sew along the seam, you stuff the second row, sew along the seam. Same thing for the third row, and then once you fill all those 3 rows that you sewed down this way, then you're gonna undo this and do another 3 rows and repeat the whole process. And then when that's done, we will come back. I will show you a little bit of the progress, and then I'll show you how to close up the top. Okay, here's the second row. We're gonna sew that together. Okay, we are this far in the quilt project, and I have to tell you, I am really regretting making this thing because it takes too long for me. Like I just don't have a lot of patience. I also have like ADD, so maybe if you don't have that, it won't be so bad for you. But I wanted to show you guys a little trick or like hack that you can do. So once you finish sewing like half of your quilt, if it's kind of like around the same size mine is, which is I would call like a lap quilt, I ended up, instead of doing 3 squares and then stopping and going to the next one and then doing 2 squares, I ended up just sewing all 5 of these. I only had 5 rows left, so I sewed them all together, and I just got this long, it's just from the kitchen, any kitchen tool or anything. You can even use scissors, whatever is gonna like reach so that you can push it into that square in case your hand doesn't fit because your squares are too small. If your squares are bigger, it should be fine. You don't need this, but it just saves you an extra step of having to stop after 3 squares and then start sewing again, if that makes sense. So I just sewed all the way down and all the way down for these last squares, and I'm just gonna stuff using this. So you still have to stuff it all the way, sew that seam, stuff it all the way, sew that seam, and then I'm gonna do that and we'll come back and I'll show you how to close it up, and then hallelujah, praise God, this will be done soon. This is where we are at. I think it turned out amazing, especially for my first time making one. It's not done. I'm on the last row, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like. And then how to stuff the last row and close it up. So remember, we kept this edge on so that it's easier to sew the finished side, but doesn't it look so cool? Yay, I think it looks so good. All right, let me show you how to do it. Okay, so you're gonna just stuff, I just cut off that big piece that you guys saw, because we're gonna end up folding it in on each other so that we have a clean edge. But you're gonna go ahead and stuff your last square. This is a very exciting part because you know you are at the finish line. So stuff them just like you usually would. I would maybe say do a little bit less stuffing. If you have enough of that edge to like fold in, I'll show you on this side because you're kind of far away, but just get that stuffing in as far back as you can. Oh, you know what I also did? I also realized that I only sewed halfway up this part. So instead of sewing all the way to the edge, I sewed halfway. So you can see I still need to sew these down. So I'm actually gonna do that now, hold on. Okay, so I sewed this last row
Christine Miller
to here. So there's still a little bit left. And then I stuffed all of these. And now I'm gonna go to the sewing machine. I'm gonna flip this in like that. Like tuck it in to have clean edges and sew it like that, and I'll show you. So now these are all stuffed, you see, and I'm just gonna, we're sewing it closed. Finally, it's will be done.
English muffin heated up. English muffin heated up.
Well, every time I see him, they're eating.
Do you have a problem?
I don't. I think it's funny. I'm surprised they don't weigh 10 pounds more.
They don't eat a lot. They might eat what?
I'll live here. I don't know.
Let me see it. To make more noise.
I don't have little wonder clips, so I would probably clip this, but.
Sam, you want some cantaloupe? No, but you're eating all the time. You sure?
What?
You just ate lunch.
I don't think this hotel's very inclusive. I'd like to speak to management.
Okay, everyone, it's done. This is what it looks like. I think it turned out really cool. It looks cool.
It feels cool. No, the kids want it.
It's really like cozy. It's
Mommy,
heavy.
put it on me.
Okay. Here, you can see how big it is on snow. Is it cozy and comfortable? Yeah? Do you think she'll like it? We made it for Anessa.
Yeah. She'll love it.
Yeah, I hope she'll love it too. For anybody that doesn't know and has watched this far, everyone's really glad this is over. They've been hearing the sewing machine going like for a week now, so we're all glad that it's done. But this was a giveaway for one of my Patreon members won the giveaway over on Patreon. And yeah, that's what it looks like. All right.
Supposed to say who got it?
Anessa. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thanks for being here. Sending you all my love and positive energy. Mwah.
I mean,
You wanna blow them a kiss?
you use these. Yeah.